Welcome back to Flashpoint. This week, city and county leaders committing to help getting funding for so-called orphan roads here in Mecklenburg County. Now, these are public roads that everybody uses, but they're not maintained by public dollars. And it's an issue leaders say hurt drivers every single day. Joining us now is North Carolina State Senator Salvador. She represents parts of southwestern Mecklenburg County. Senator, welcome to Flashpoint. It's nice to have you on.
Yeah, thank you. I hope you're doing well today.
We are. So give me an indication from your vantage point, how big of an issue are these orphan roads, specifically in your district there in southwestern part of Mecklenburg County?
Yeah, so that was one of the things in terms of really the depth and breadth of the issue of orphan roads that was really eye-opening for me as I became a state senator. It was something that I was vaguely familiar with, but the amount of potential safety concerns and risks pertaining to orphan roads, I quickly learned that is all throughout our county, all throughout our state, and particularly there are a few really big areas of concern within my district as well. So I definitely took notice as different concerned constituents reached out to me.
And where do you see is the disconnect here between, say, state, local governments? What's happening here?
Yeah, so it certainly varies. So in some moments, orphan road could arise simply because it is a part of a smaller subdivision. Perhaps it is a road that doesn't have enough, vehicle miles traveled on it. But in a lot of instances, particularly in unincorporated parts of the county, particular to Palisades, that came from essentially some misalignment with the potential annexation of Palisades. So as one of our rules for the state, that for the state to adopt a road, it has to meet some criteria. And one of those has to be at the state standard, which is one of the primary issues that we're seeing with roads like Palisades, which is then pushing that upkeep onto a very small pool of residents as we're seeing growing traffic and other usage of the street.
Yeah, Grand Palisades Parkway I know has been sort of ground zero for this discussion in the last week or so. What is your proposal from a state level, understanding there's state level things that can happen and local level things that can happen? You introduced a bill, I know, in the Senate to help address this issue. Explain to us what that is.
Yeah, so there's actually been quite a bit of movement. I definitely want to give a shout out to Representative Majid as well as Senator Sawyer, who this session also introduced bills pertaining to orphan roads. My bill in particular really is trying to address the shortfall between the funding needed to take a privately maintained road up to state standards so that we can essentially adopt it as a state maintained road and really help with that maintenance. There have been other proposals, for instance, for Representative Majid, which is looking at how to extend the county semi-annual assessments to really try to make it more affordable to help address that shortfall. And then there's even been a number of bills additionally in the House that have looked at studying this issue or trying to do a statewide funding mechanism. So there's been quite a bit of interest about how the state can help to achieve, some progress as we're seeing just a lot of concern, a lot of gaps, and even have folks who are looking to move to an area or be in real estate express concerns about, the disclosures around orphan roads too.
I know this issue also taking center stage here locally in front of Charlotte city leaders. The city manager is saying that he's going to work on putting a plan together to put sales tax money into some of these roads. How much of a part of the solution do you think that is?
So I certainly have not been involved in any of their negotiations or conversations. I do believe it could be a pathway to address some of these. So for instance, in the case of Palisades, that road was actually built to city standard based upon the bond that the developer many years ago, who I believe is bankrupt and transferred to another developer, but essentially it was built to city innovative standard, which is not quite at the criteria we need for a state standard. So utilizing city funds to help address that certainly could make sense in quite a few orphan road situations that may be suffering or dealing with a similar situation of trying to figure out how to achieve addressing that gap. There certainly could be additional things looking at how we get in front of these issues happening, but I could certainly see that helping communities in need a little bit more quickly.
Orphan roads, a phrase I was not too familiar with too long ago, but it's an issue that doesn't have easy solutions, but it's really important because it impacts a lot of people and families in these communities that have to drive these roads every single day, and we know that can get frustrating. All right, State Senator Salvador. Senator, thanks for coming on. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. You have a wonderful day.
Still to come here on Flashpoint, Charlotte City leaders signing off on protections for officers a month after a devastating attack in East Charlotte.